Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Anchor, and I wanted to give you a heads up. This is going to be a Patreon early access video. So if you're getting this on the YouTube, the people on the Patreon got it first. If you like this kind of content, you should definitely like, comment, and subscribe. Stay till the end. Check out our Patreon so that we can be up to date with all our developments. Our Discord's coming out soon too as well, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But I need you to remember something. This isn't financial advice. We don't accept liabilities for loss that you might incur, and everything here is strictly for news and research purposes. So with that in mind, you should be able to enjoy the content of this video, which is Anchor. As you see right here, Anchor. It is doing its thing. From the all-time high of 20 cents, it is down to basically 10 cents. So it's down 50% currently. And this is a very interesting coin for one reason, simply because it's one of the higher circulating supply coins that I'm calling on this channel. But the reason being is that I genuinely believe in the use case. I think that personally, this coin on its own is going to be doing a lot of big things simply because of how it's approaching the cryptocurrency market. And that's where I'm going to get into it right now. You go here, ANKR.com. Pretty simple. Oh, pretty simple. It's a pretty nice website. Already you can see that there was a lot of love in it. And you can see here some of the people that are already using Anchor into their protocol. And it goes even further, by the way. So what does Anchor do? Realistically, Anchor, what it is it's a distributed network of nodes across a bunch of proof-of-stake blockchains that basically allows them to all interconnect to each other to some degree. So if you were to actually read the Anchor white paper, you'll see here that it's basically a distributed computer platform that aims to leverage idle computing resources in data centers and edge devices to basically share that hash power, so that way other networks that need it could basically monetize that spare power that's not being used. What they're actually doing is extremely valuable simply because every time you leave your computer running or every time someone is doing something, it's like there's residual energy and data that's going nowhere. And if you were to build an Anchor node, you'd be able to use some of that residual power so that it could go into a distributed network, so it could be like a cloud network. And the reason that's valuable is simply because a while ago, this was an example of bam. All right, so here you see here that the issue was that Amazon Web Services suffered a major outage, and the company provides cloud computing services to individuals, right? So Amazon creates a centralized entity that creates basically the cloud service, the AWS, Amazon Web Services, right? But the issue with that is when it's centralized, if the whole thing goes down, that's it. It goes down until it's fixed. Whereas Anchor, what it plans on doing is it's creating a decentralized network of nodes that all take on a piece of this network. So if one centralized entity were to go down, there would be other decentralized entities, so to speak, to pick up that slack. Having a decentralized cloud service is actually more efficient when handling this kind of technology, simply because the whole concept is that everything is connected into each other and together, creating a network that everyone could basically use together. Pretty simple. And considering the fact that they're approaching it from a perspective of like your excess hash power, meaning that you're taking the excess, things that you're not using, and you're monetizing it as a node within their platform. So right there, I think that's a really good way of approaching this kind of service, simply because there's not many other people doing it like that. There's some other people that are attempting this kind of like cloud service, like SIA, this, that, but I genuinely think Anchor has a huge edge simply because A, it's already approaching it from a really good perspective of taking excess hash power, but also it's approaching it from a perspective of like it's creating nodes that allow it to function like that. And not only that, it also has a pretty large network of people that are already involved. And as you can see here, you have Avalanche, Binance, Ethereum, Kusama, like there's even Polygon and Polkadot as well, Phantom. Like there's multi-billion-dollar projects already involved with Anchor. They're already building upon this kind of system. And the other thing that I really liked about it is the fact that like, A, you have all these things basically built into it, and it's creating its own ecosystem. But what Anchor also plans on doing is it's planning on creating a system too where that excess hash power gets aggregated into staking pools that you need most. So right now, a barrier to entry for Ethereum is about 32 ETH to stake. By using the Anchor node, you could actually reduce that entry because you'd be staking through Anchor on Ethereum. So people who don't have 32 Ethereum could actually enter the Ethereum pool, which allows you to make something at least. And right now, to have 32 Ethereum isn't exactly something that's an easy feat. You know, like at $4,000 US, that's about $150,000 that you need to put down just to stake Ethereum. And not everyone has that. Let's be real. And Anchor at least provides you an option where you could potentially get into the staking without needing 32 Ethereum. And that, for me, I could see a lot of value in that. Because you'd be taking all, basically, the people that couldn't get in, and you're allowing them an entry, which is awesome. So that's basically what they're planning on doing. They've already applied themselves to multiple chains. So they're not even trying to create their own competitor. What they're trying to do is they're trying to be something that gets anchored in to every other chain. That's why they took the name. And then what they want to do is they want to create a system where they can monetize being adapted into every chain so that they could be compatible with it. And the way I see it is by basically, like, at that point, they'd be leeching off the larger market cap of other coins. So there's a very good chance that with Ethereum at a $500 billion market cap and all these other coins growing, there's no reason why this one wouldn't grow. So like that's like a really basic way of breaking it down. You look at this, it's called Staker, right? So this is basically like the initial version that they launched for Anchor and how they plan to basically break it down. And one of the most interesting things that I saw here was like they're talking about how like right now like there's single points of failure due to centralization in the current staking platforms, and how something like Anchor could actually break that monopoly of basically of like having too much centralized staking, simply because think about it. If you're adding Anchor nodes to every node as an extension, you're increasing the size of the network, which increases the security of it. And currently the issue with proof of stake blockchain is that it's not very secure. You could pretty much hack them, well, not easily. I wouldn't be able to do it, but like someone who is capable can, because they do. And it's very common. And when you see hacks going on, it's not Bitcoin getting hacked or Ethereum getting hacked. It's usually the DeFi protocols that are already implementing these kinds of ideas, right? The next stage, right? So what they want to do is they want to help people utilize their CPUs and GPUs and free memory storage, so that way people could earn extra money from their assets. So they're taking all that like stuff that's not being used, and they're giving you a method or a platform to capitalize on it, which is valuable. And you can see here, like they have it set up where it's like, okay, so like this is their capacity, and by using Anchor, you could actually work, like by creating an Anchor node, you connect to ETH 2.0, and then it rewards you an Anchor. And then your Anchor is going to be rewardable by a certain amount of USDT or a certain amount of Ethereum. So it's like you are getting paid in something. And the fact that Anchor is already locked into Binance Smart Chain and a bunch of other chains right now is actually looking pretty good. And I would definitely recommend that anyone who's, thinking about jumping into this project, considering that I put it on the table for them, they should probably read this white paper that I posted, and it's going to be in the sources. Simply because you could see where the vision is going. And basically what they want to do is they just want to create a way for people to actually make money on nothing. Or rather, make money on nothing. The ability to basically operate a node and make money off of not being able to run a node in any other circumstance. And the other thing that's beautiful about that is to run a node on a lot of these platforms is extremely complicated. Whereas something like this, the way they're setting it up, is actually easier to basically get involved. So you can see right here, I went to the pricing plans right here. You see like the basic, the builder, the pro, and it tells you how to run a node. and it makes it extremely simple for you to run a node. And that's kind of beautiful because most people don't know how to run a node. I personally don't even know how to run most nodes. I mean, I could figure it out better than most people, but the reality is like they have it set up here where it's as simple as a click. That's kind of awesome, you know what I mean? And even here, another thing that was interesting was this. So it's like Anchor is a great addition to the Celo Alliance. So I don't know if you guys watched my video on Celo. You should check it out. But Celo was mentioned in the WEF paper about blockchains, talking about how blockchain technology is going to change the world, right? And they mentioned here that Celo is already using Anchor. And they're not publicly partnered, as you can see here on this part right here. Hold on a second. Hold on. Right there, yeah. So they're not really mentioned here in this part, but they are there because they're building on it. And yeah, I should have just went here and looked at it. But regardless, the point is that this is doing something that no one else is really approaching, and not in this perspective. So I like the idea of how they're approaching that. I like the fact that they have good partners. I like the fact that their ecosystem isn't just like, who could we get that has a big name? It's like, no, we've taken people that need our product, all these people right here, and we're helping them build to make their product more accessible to the general market. And there's beauty in that. So that's like that's basically, it's called the Staker white paper, and it explains all this stuff. And it's actually very valuable technology, just considering what they plan to approach. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to mention it on this channel as well as on our Patreon. Is simply because, okay, the prices drop. This could be a decent time to load up on it. It has a good use case. It's approaching things from a perspective that not many people are actually taking into consideration. And I like what I read, so to speak. Now, the next thing that's interesting is this. So now we're going to go to the team. This is where the team has worked from before. Obviously, their team is all over, but Chandler Sung, the CEO, he was working for Amazon Web Services before. So he understands the weakness in a centralized database, and his whole idea was like, okay, we could do something way better. We're going to take these decentralized entities, and we're going to build them in a way that's actually viable. And you can see they worked on Amazon, they worked in Amazon Web Services, they worked on Ethereum, they worked in Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, EOS, Oracle. It's not like these people have basically been nowhere. They've been around. They've been a part of larger companies. You know, whether or not they were at the top of these companies, that's a different story. But the reality is that they worked at a high enough level to be able to mention these things. And I've went through some of these individuals myself, and you know what I mean. Like they acknowledge that the reason they left these companies was to do something bigger, and that's a big part of having a team that actually believes in a vision. Even any team that has a good vision and believes in it, they'll do well in what they do. That's what I've come to notice. And you got me a little bit emotional just thinking about my team, because those guys work fucking hard, and I'm giving them a shout out right now. I love those fucking guys. So I like to think about like a team that's actually, when I think of teams, I think of people that are trying their best. So we're going to go here to the next part right here about the purpose, paving the way to the open internet future. More or less, their whole concept is to create a Web3 environment that could work globally. And not only globally, that will make it accessible so people could do some of the more complicated applications in crypto, so that way they could access it like a normal person and not have to come as a coder. And they mention here too, like Anchor and Media. They are mentioned in Forbes, they are mentioned in Cointelegraph, and they are mentioned in Binance Chain Blog. You know what I mean? So they've been mentioned. Their team is solid. It's worth keeping into consideration. And then this is where I liked a lot. So it's called ANKR Docs. And I'm going to leave this in the description for you guys. It's basically like it gives the documents for Anchor, and it talks about like how they're approaching things. So right here, like for example, it's talking Web3, the next generation of internet. Mass adoption of Web3 by individuals, developers, enterprises is key to ensuring that basically to securing the next stage of the internet. And the third generation of internet is here, but it's still under construction. And Web3 movement refers to the building of an internet of decentralized networks that no single entity controls. It is a movement away from the centralized corporations that currently dominate the web. And they say something like 50 or 70% of the web. 50 or 70% of the web is dominated just between Amazon and Google. And then I think like another 10 or 20% by Amazon. So it's like they control so much of it that it's not even right. And the reality is that most of these platforms, this whole decentralized thing, this whole like, oh, let's become Web3. It's not just Web3. It's the breaking up of the monopolies of the current system. That's what they're trying to do. If they successfully do it, then guess what? We're all going to be living in a more open online economy. And you can see here, right, like what is ANKR? It talks about what is ANKR. ANKR, the vision. And basically, like the vision is basically we believe that Web3 and crypto economy should be available to anyone and everyone on the planet with access to internet. They want to empower mass adoption. They want to liberate the people from complexity with user-friendly tools. They want to remove the barriers of participation into the crypto economy for everybody, which is extremely valuable. And their approach in doing that was basically right here. User and community first design, removing complexity, and building an inclusive Web3 infrastructure. And the fact that they don't, technically the fact that they aren't their own like blockchain, for example, they're just something that's added to a blockchain, means that they're technically chain neutral, meaning that they are not trying to push any platform more than another, which means that for them, it's like, yo, we're just trying to do our thing and everyone is going to use us simply because they're going to need us. And that's very valuable for a company because a lot of these Ethereum killers, they're all banking on killing Ethereum and they haven't succeeded. In fact, most of them haven't even broken $1 billion market cap. So how many Ethereum killers are there going to be, realistically? I take my bets more on things that are actually like A, trying to include themselves into other functioning projects, or B, planning to revolutionize and change things. So Luxo, yeah. My cameraman just whispered that at me, and I wanted to share that with you guys. But yes, Luxo, they're changing how things are rolling, and that's why I took the bet. Because you could consider that one a risk. Put a pause in this, but we could consider it a risk. But the reality is, if they're going to change something for everybody, I'd take a bet on that, as opposed to finding the next Ethereum killer, which is building on Ethereum. Isn't that a little bit weird? All these Ethereum killers are building on Ethereum, attempting to try and kill it. All the smart projects understand you're not killing Ethereum. You're just going to build next to it. Accept it. So chain neutrality is important for me because there's no real, like, and you can see here, like the reason they want to do that when they're chain neutral is that they allow everyone to basically participate, and there'll be certain benefits of using one chain over another at a certain time. And you see right here, like decentralization, when you have ANKR and its purpose, it allows for true decentralization, simply because when you're building ANKR nodes on top of other nodes with other nodes, it creates more decentralization because you're adding in more pieces, so to speak, right? So it's like, imagine it's like you have 100 Ethereum nodes, right? If you implement ANKR nodes attached to these Ethereum nodes, you're adding in more nodes total to be able to decentralize it better. And then to have more nodes decentralizing like that, everything's connected. So even if half the nodes go down, there's still a lot more nodes involved, which could relatively keep the network stable. Whereas a centralized entity going down, it's done. You know, and then like you go here, they talk about like the ANKR protocol. Like, obviously, I'm not going to be able to go through everything here, but I did want to mention, like, look here, like, look at this, like, look at the names here. You got Binance Smart Chain, you have Ethereum Phantom, Flow, QB, Kusama, Polygon, Polkadot, Solana. Like, these are all people that are already like building ANKR into them. And if you believe in all these other projects, if you're bullish on all these other projects, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be bullish about this one, because the reality is it plans to build on all of them together and connect them in a way where they could like aggregate their excess hash power to each other. So like, let's say Ethereum has too much hash power at the time, and like instead of that extra power just sitting in that network, something like Anchor would be able to like pull it out and give it to another network, which is pretty awesome, because like there's less chance of like, you know, wasted energy, which is a big thing right now in the green mining space, you know, and that's some of the reasons why I believe in this project. And we're getting to the point now where I'm about to wrap it up, but I wanted to mention this as well. So it's like Anchor staking and new milestones and partnerships, right? So there's 46,000 Ethereum staked on Anchor. So that's a lot of Ethereum. It's not a small amount of Ethereum. Like, that's a relatively big amount of money being staked on Anchor, which means that like they're already trying it. They're already that far deep into it. So like the reality is there could be more. There could be more of that coming, and with other coins. So if you believe in a lot of other coins, there's no reason that this couldn't be something bigger. And they broke 80K followers on Twitter. They're now at over 100,000 followers at the time that we're filming this. And you see, like, they're forming partnerships. So they're just constantly building their network. And even Chainlink is involved with them as well. So you're watching all this, and you're like, okay, they got a massive web of crypto partnerships. They got a relatively big following. They have a great use case. And they're not trying to compete with anyone. They're trying to build with everybody. So for me, the way I see it is, even if they take 1% of the total cryptocurrency market cap, let's say $3 trillion, what is 1% of that? It's like quite a bit. Hold on, I'll even do the calculation on that. Give me a second. That's $30 billion. So realistically speaking, if they were to get 1% of the network, the total network, if they built on top of it, right? It's about $30 billion. The market cap is under 1 billion. So that's 30x. Even if you cut that number in half, because you could say, oh, well, not everything is in Ethereum, or fine, cut it in half. $15 billion. That is still 15x, potentially to grow. And I don't think 1% is a stretch considering what they're approaching. It's not that big of a stretch because they plan to connect and stake every network together. On that note, I'm going to wrap it up because I feel like I'm all anchored out for the day, and I'll definitely be doing follow-up videos on this project, enough where I was willing to put it on the radar and in my top 10 list. So if you watch to this point, if you're on the Patreon, awesome. Thanks for following me. If you're catching this on YouTube after the Patreon, because that's what happened, then, you know, thanks for watching to the end. Like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our Patreon if you want to catch these videos early. And our Discord is launching in Q1 next year, January. And that's going to be friggin' awesome. And the people on our Patreon are going to be getting a roadmap given soon so they can see what our progression is as a company. And they'll be able to see where we're going and what we've done so far. Take care.